Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What's today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 21st day of August here. Got a great show with you for tonight. Going to talk about the 12-team playoff. Going to make my 12-team playoff. Talk about, I've got it made here. I've got it here with my phone here, and I got my magazine. But I'm going to give you predictions and national championship winner. Also, a few notes from the Hard Knocks show there. And let's take our first and only break. Don't want to waste any time here. Hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku. There's our logo right on the right. NESSP. Tap on the logo and it will add to your TV, the channel to your TV. On your laptop, tablet, and mobile phone, download the free Roku app and channel search just like above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports. Click on our NESSP logo and add the channel.
All righty then. I did not totally forgot yesterday to add Mac's commercials in with my program. My apologies there, but we got them in today here. The National Streaming Sports Network there. A lot of good sport. They're constantly adding shows, a lot of talented people, in-depth knowledge from the NBA, the NFL, hockey. You got the Philly sports guy there. You got a boxing Hall of Fame writer there out of New York, and Jack Hirsch, and former pros that come on their program all the time in all sports, and coaches. So check out that. The National Streaming Sports is where Sports Scope is on the Roku channel, folks, under the National Streaming Sports channel that was just talked about. Okay, now to the show. Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks. It was okay. It wasn't great this episode. Matt Eberflus, and I mentioned this before, and maybe all coaches do this, and I just haven't picked up on it. I have not noticed it. I've watched just about every single Hard Knocks that there is. I don't think I've seen the Houston Texans one in full, but watching the other Hard Knocks, I do not recall the head coach having one-on-ones with the quarterback without the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator are both being in the room. It feels like he is the personal coach there of Caleb Williams. I've said this before. They showed it again in this particular episode of Hard Knocks. I do think that it comes off as Matt Eberflus, a guy that's a defensive background guy. Now, I've said on this program, hey, I want you to be the head coach of the whole team. I get that. I just don't know what the one-on-one is for. Now, Andy Reid, it's different. You know, he's got an offensive background. That's what Andy Reid does. You know, that's his thing. That's what you got a quarterback and offensive coordinator for. Now, if you're an offensive background coach, you can kind of see a former quarterback. I think that Eberflus, I think he wants ownership in case they come up short to see that and say, listen, I'm giving it my all ownership. I'm giving it my all to get him developed as fast as possible. And Pickle says he's betting his job on Williams, okay? Just getting it done as fast as possible. Or he's getting him developed as fast as – that's what I'm seeing out of that. It just doesn't seem like a good look to me. I do like the fact that the team has surrounded Caleb Williams with some good targets. I saw Odunze, great game in that game against, was it Cincinnati? Now, of course, it still is preseason, but you're starting to see the chemistry. And that would be really exciting for Bear fans, if I'm a Bear fan, to see the number 9 pick overall start to develop that chemistry with your number 1 pick, Caleb Williams here, which you mind you, that was a pick they got from Carolina. So I do like that aspect of it. But these USC, Pickle says these USC killers come from Coach Killers come from USC. Yeah. And we'll see. Now, originally he came from Oklahoma, and he followed the coach there. Lincoln Riley, and I'm going to talk about Lincoln a little bit later on in the program here. So, anywho, I like that. That is the positive here, and I did notice this. I've watched just about every single one of these things, and I noticed that they're not cursing on there. And usually it's F-bomb this, F-bomb that, players F-bomb this, F-bomb that, the coach of the team F-bomb this, F-bomb that. And according to reports here, and this is multiple reports, this is out of Chicago area, that there is zero cursing policy in this year's Hard Knocks because the Bears owners, the McCaskey family, do not use profanity and would not want to hear their players cursing on TV. I like that. I like that. I think it's the NFL is a clean image. It is that's what they're trying to present. The graphics are good. Everything about the NFL is what they're trying to present, and it's the highest rated. It's the highest rated game in America, and it has been for a number of years. It's supposed to be first class, professional, first class. Kudos to the family. Now, I know they ain't been the best owners in the world. The Bears have been disastrous over the years. But kudos to that. I thought that was a fun little tidbit there. I discovered upon this today, and I noticed that online because I was like, hey, they're not cursing like they normally do, you know? And it's a good look there for the Bears organization. So kudos to that. All right, so still got a few teams I want to talk about and before I go into this 12-team playoff pick and breakdown, 12-team breakdown and playoff pick. Number one, it would almost be a crime for me not to talk about Alabama, okay? Paul Fonbon said today the dynasty's over and people acting like that's some kind of big trend on the internet. And I do believe the dynasty's over. But Keelan DeBoer, a national championship coach, they just hired, I mean, you know, the finals are over with. And, of course, you know, Michigan wins a national championship. And about a week or so later, they're celebrating 15-0. A week or so later, Nick Saban, I don't think Nick Saban retires. And then, of course, they get the Washington coach, Keelan DeBoer, here. Okay. I do think that Jalen Monroe, his play will be better under DeBoer. I do think that he's an offensive-minded guy at Alabama. I just still wouldn't want to follow Nick Saban. I mean, 7 national championships. But anyways, I do think that Monroe's play is going to be better. The defense, they've got 6 starters back. This defense was shaky last year for Alabama standards at times. And I do not see any reason why it would not be more shaky with Keelan DeBoer's with his coaching staff coming in here, okay? And, so last year, yes, they did go. And by the way, they've also lost their star receiver. Isaiah Bond went to Texas. Isaiah Bond. You can hear that name. And, of course, Jermaine Burton, who I've talked about, who's now a Cincinnati Bengal. But I really did not think that Monroe was going to be able to push through like he did last year. But now he is a dual threat. I think his stats will be up. But listen to this schedule. Their first big real test will be at Wisconsin on September 14th. Remember, Wisconsin beat LSU a few years ago. So early in the year like that, even if Alabama has the depth issue, this is September 14th. This is still early in the season. Alabama could get upset there. I think they'll beat Wisconsin up there, but they could get upset there. Plus, this is the 3rd year for Luke Fickell, their head coach. It's a former Cincinnati Bearcat coach that was played against Alabama in the playoff. Now, of course, Alabama won, but guys like Sauce Gardner, top 5 pick, went on to play for the Jets. So comes from that University of Cincinnati team. This is his 3rd year. So I think this is going to be Alabama fans are going to be holding their breath for this game because this is up in Wisconsin area. They've got an early bye week at the 21st of September. Then they've got Georgia at home. I just think that Georgia's a better team right now. They're loaded. They've got a better quarterback overall. According to the draft prospect people, he's supposed to be the first quarterback taken off the board. Could they get an upset over Georgia? Yes. Georgia's going to be looking, though, for revenge on them. But we'll see. I mean, you got a tough game against Wisconsin bye week and then Georgia. And then after that, the next tough game will be October 19th at Tennessee. There's a very good chance they could lose that game to Tennessee. But Tennessee plays Florida beforehand, okay? And then November 9th, they play at LSU, okay? And then you got Mercer there. And then at Oklahoma. Not a given, though. Road games, see? Road games, bad defense. And then Auburn, the Auburn game at home. Auburn's got 17 starters coming back. Now, this is at Tuscaloosa. So you look at it, you're saying, okay, at Tennessee, Georgia. By the way, Missouri is after that. I just now realized that. Missouri's a very good team. Very good 2-loss team. They've got 9 starters back on defense. They'll lose either to Tennessee or Missouri. This Alabama team will, okay? They're going to lose probably to Georgia, and I think they'll probably lose either at LSU or at Auburn or at Oklahoma, Auburn. So you're talking 2 losses here, possibly 3. In the non-conference. According to Phil Steele, this is the number 9th hardest schedule in the country. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the most difficult. It's not the 2nd or 3rd most, excuse me, Florida. Florida's got the hardest schedule in the history of college football, University of Florida. But it's one of the more difficult schedules in the SEC. I think they're going to come up short. They're probably a 3-loss team. That's that is bad for Alabama standards because it's championship every year, or bust. That's just the way it is at the University of Alabama. Okay, so I got Alabama out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about LSU, another team that I wanted to talk about. Now, Brian Kelly, really good coach here, 10-3 last year. You know, they were 10-4 his first year. LSU is one of the few, LSU, and I'm going to say Ohio State, that seems it doesn't matter who the coach is. They always seem to get, over these last 20 years, I don't know what it is, they always seem to get great players, particularly defensive backs and wide receivers that turn out to be mega stars at the next level. But now, you know, they do have this Garrett Nussmeier Jr. here. Garrett Nussmeier Jr. is going to be he is going to be the starting quarterback. Now, of course, we know that Jalen Daniels here is Jalen Daniels. I want to see if I put them in the check map. Okay. Jalen Daniels is playing with the Washington Commanders. Of course, Malik Neighbors. Those guys have all went off. Brian Kelly, very good coach here. Opened up in Vegas Sunday night, a week from Sunday. They'll be playing USC there. I think they'll win that game. Also, I wanted to note that they did hire a new defense coordinator. They had one of the worst coordinators in the country. They've hired Blake Baker from Missouri. But they do have a pretty rough schedule as well. Ole Miss, October 12th. Now, that is off a bye week at Arkansas. That's a sandwich game. What's up, Patrick? How you doing, man? Patrick Bernard. Okay, so anyways, you got USC there, and I think they'll beat USC. But they got Ole Miss off that bye week, possibly could win that game, and at Arkansas, which could be a trap game. You know, that could be a trap game there, and then of course at A&M, that probably will be a trap game. Then of course I just mentioned they got Alabama at home, and they've got at Florida and Oklahoma. So it looks like that they look to be a potential 3-loss team. They're a borderline playoff team. Because I just don't know what Nussmeier is going to do at the quarterback position. He was the backup last year. We'll have to wait and see approach with this team. So of course, they play UCLA. They played at South Carolina as well. But that Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, then Alabama. By the way, I poo-pooed Florida. They play Alabama in the big game at home. The Florida game is a tight rival game for LSU. They always seem to have issues with Florida. You know, bad Florida teams have beaten LSU, and bad LSU teams have beaten good Florida teams. That's really an underplayed rival in the SEC. So I do think they're going to come up a little short this year. But when you've got these good coaches, they're making good money. You know, they could very well get into the playoff. Almost, I said this, all but 3 teams from the SEC could get in the playoff. Okay. But I'm going to give you my playoffs here in a little bit. Just wanted to finish up a few. Previews. Is that Patrick that I picked up the other day? I don't know if I did. I thought you was a guy I picked up from that sign shop, but I guess not. Never mind, brother. Okay, page 95. Okay, let's talk a little bit of USC. Speaking of the Devils, hey, listen, folks. I mean, Lincoln Riley has had 3 Heisman Trophy winners. Okay, he's no clown by no means. All right, I done passed up their page. I've got some notes written in the magazine, and I've got notes written here on my phone. Here, I feel like a bookie. You know, I feel like an odds maker. Actually, Pickles. You know. USC also. They've also fired their defensive coordinator, and I hired this Alex. They fired Alex Grinch, you know, the Grinch that stole Christmas, the Grinch that stole the defense. I mean, they were also giving up 40 points a game last year, you know. So they hired Anton Lynn from UCLA and Baltimore at the NFL in Houston. So this guy's pretty good. And got 9 starters back on defense, but they wasn't that good, you know. But I do think they're going to be better coached here, per se. And like I said before, Lincoln Riley, yes, Caleb Williams is in the NFL, but they've got this Miller Moss Jr. here at quarterback here. Lincoln Riley is turning into the college version of Andy Reid. You know, he resurrected Jalen Hurts' career, got him drafted in the 2nd round. He made Baker Mayfield the 1st overall pick. He made Kyler Murray the 1st overall pick. He made Caleb Williams the 1st overall pick. He's pretty good. That's why I said he would probably be a good fit next year, especially since the defense is in place. Get some defensive guys, some NFL guys to run the defense. Maybe this guy, right? Maybe this Anton here, who's worked years in the NFL, bring him to the Bears, and then run the offense with Onduze, Caleb Williams, and of course DJ Moore, that offensive line. Then you could be cooking with gas. It's just food for thought, okay? But anyways, all right. So now they were 8-5 last year, and they got destroyed by Notre Dame last year, if you recall. That game was never really close. I do think LSU will find a way to beat them. But what if they do beat LSU? LSU's got a new quarterback too. That's going to be a good game, and it's closer to LA than it is to Baton Rouge this game. That's going to be played. LSU plays USC Sunday night in Las Vegas. So that could you say it's a whole game for a potential USC team? Possibly, okay? But they've also got to play September 21st at Michigan. I think Michigan's not going to be that good this year, but they still are Michigan. But then they got to play Wisconsin at home there, at Minnesota, then Penn State. Penn State's loaded this year. They've also got a new offensive coordinator. I mentioned it. Penn State, this is a very good Penn State team. After those 3 games, I do think that they'll catch their 2nd loss to Penn State on October 12th. Even though it is at home, per se. And then they got to play November 2nd at Washington. And, of course, at the end of the season, this Notre Dame team is very good this year. Very good this year, led by Riley Leonard, who Notre Dame, and I'm going to talk to him in just a minute. So I feel like somebody's watching me. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like that this is probably a 3-loss team. And their strength of schedule, which is they've got it listed as number 3. I do not agree with that. I don't think it's this hard. But they're probably a 3 or 4 loss team here. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying they're going to beat Wisconsin or they're going to beat Minnesota, even if they beat Washington. But I still think that they'll lose to Notre Dame. I do think they'll lose to Penn State. I do think they'll lose to LSU. And I'm still saying that they're going to win at Michigan, Wisconsin, at Minnesota. So that's West Coast of Michigan, Pickles. Okay. Then you come back home. Then you play Wisconsin, physical team. Okay. And then you got to travel to Minnesota. So that's 2 out of the 3 road games in the central time zone from USC. Remember, they're in the Big Ten now. I think that's going to catch up with them because traditionally Riley's teams have been a little bit on the soft side in the college game. So I'm giving them benefit at saying they're going to lose 3 games. They're going to lose 3 games. And that's what a lot of the national prognosticators are saying about Penn State. This may be, Pickle says, probably the best James Franklin team at Penn State. I've been listening to this for a couple of weeks now that Penn State's really going to be good, particularly their quarterback. This is the class they've been banking on for years that they're going to play well and actually make a run here. And they're also one of the closest teams to number 5 over the years to get into the playoffs. So this playoff would have benefited them 5 out of the last 6 years or something like that. Some kind of weird stat I heard there on Penn State. Okay, one more preview, then I'm going to get right to it there, folks. Then I'm going to get right to the 12-team playoff. Got a good audience tonight. I see a lot of numbers popping up there. Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame's going to be really good this year. I think it's really playing out for Notre Dame, but they will be tested the very first week. They will be tested at Texas A&M Saturday, August 31st, a week from this Saturday. They got to play at Texas A&M. Now, 9 players back on that defense. Remember, this defense played really well last year. Okay, they should have beat Ohio State last year. They lost that 17-14. It was a brain cramp there at the very end there. Ohio State goes on and wins this game. But 9 of those starters are back on defense, 6 on offense, but they've added a key piece here. Riley Leonard, the player from Duke, okay? Riley Leonard used to play under the head coach of Texas A&M. He used to play under that guy, okay? This is going to be a very good game. It's at A&M, okay? I do think Notre Dame will win that game. And Marcus Freeman here has also – he got a new offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrook, because they did underachieve last year offensively. He's got a new offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrook from LSU. Could be a potential huge upgrade. This guy was a former coordinator. He's also a tight ends coach at LSU. So this guy, Marcus Freeman, not only is he a good recruiter of players and getting transfers, he's also a good recruiter of getting coaches in there. He's a very young guy. I don't even think he's 40 years old here. And the head coach, I thought he was going to be way over his head at Notre Dame. He settled down. Bad first year. Last year, 10-3 with wins over Clemson, wins over USC last year. And they beat Duke at Duke last year. So this is that was a pretty good Duke team. That was a Duke team that just, like I said, they beat the brakes off Clemson. So they open up against Texas A&M. Everything could go down the drain for them if they lose that game. I don't think they will. They've got teams like Louisville at home on September 28th. Brom, second-year coach there, former quarterback of Louisville's coaching them. That could be a potential loss for them. They've got Florida State, but it's at Notre Dame. Notre Dame got a better player for player this year. They've got a better team, I think, than Florida State. November 9th, and it's in South Bend, okay? And then they end the season at USC. So this is possibly an undefeated Notre Dame team. Could they slip up against a very first game of the year, Texas A&M in a close game? But I do think they'll get key wins over Florida State, USC at the very end, Stanford, Georgia Tech. Louisville may be a much more impressive win at the end of the season once Brom finishes it. So they've got a favorable schedule. They've kind of got it easy. Somebody's got to change this. Eventually, Notre Dame is going to have to play in a conference championship game. This is really not going to be fair for everybody else. If everybody else has got to go through the gauntlet and your Big Tens, your SEC teams of playing a a championship game, which they do, and Notre Dame does not have to play a championship game in the conference. That's not right. But right now, I've got Notre Dame making the playoffs. Yes, I think Notre Dame's got the horses here with this quarterback and that defense to make a playoff here. They're going to be one of the playoff teams. All right, which leads me to taking a sip of this water and getting right to the show. So this is the first year, so I want to recap with everybody what this is about, okay? This is the very first year of the 12-team playoff, like Jim Moore Sr. would say. Not Junior. Junior's a son. He's still coaching, the former Colts coach here. Okay. All right. So at the end of the year, we're talking December 7th, something like that, December 6th, December 7th, we're going to get conference championship games, all right? We will get those conference championship games, all right? Then we're going to get, I wish it wasn't this way, but I'm just telling you like it is. Then we're going to get the Heisman Trophy presentation the very next week, which is on like the 14th, okay? Then the next week after that, we start the 12-team playoff, and this is from collegefootballplayoff.com. They got their own website. The 12 participating teams will be the 5 conference champions ranked highest by the college football committee here, all right? Plus the next 7 highest ranked teams. The ranking of the teams will continue to be done by selection committee. The 4 highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4 and will receive a first round bye week. So those teams, this is kind of a disadvantage because you don't want to get too much rest, all right? Like I said, everybody's going to get a bye week after the season. Everybody's getting that bye week, the week of the Heisman Trophy presentation. Everybody's getting that bye week. So the teams hosting the home games, they're going to be at a very big advantage right there, and it's going to be on site, per se. That's going to be that first round between 5 through 5 through 12. The first 4 is got the bye week. 5 through 12, folks, they'll be playing, and I can't wait to see that. That's going to be awesome. That'll be around December 20th, right around Christmas, 5 days before Christmas. My true love gave to me a college football playoff. Woo! All right. So, all right, now the 5th conference champion will be seated with his ranked at 12 and is outside the top 12 ranked. Non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be seated 5 because of the seedings. 1 through 12 will look different in the final rankings. Okay. The 8 teams seeded 5 through 12 will play in the first round with the highest seed hosting the lower seed, just like the regular NCAA tournament. The 5 will play the 12 and so forth. Okay. All right, and it goes on to say that with the 4 highest ranked conference champions assigned to bowls, their playoff quarterfinals opponents will be dictated by bracket 1 versus 9-8 winner, and 5 versus 12, 2 versus 7-10 winner, and all that good stuff. Okay, so you've got the gist of this thing. I wish it was playing the very next week and you give the top 4 conference champion winners the bye week, but that's not going to happen that way. So essentially, again, you got the Heisman, then you've got everybody, not the top 4, the reigning 8, playing at those. The higher seeded team will get the home game. from my understanding. Then those next rounds will be at neutral sites. I think, personally, hopefully they'll fix it. I think all the games should be home and away instead until you get to the national championship game. Then the national championship game played in January. The national championship game should be played at a neutral site. That's just my opinion. That would be awesome. I love the home and away. I love the loud crowds. I don't like those neutral site games. I really don't like those games in Atlanta for some reason. I don't like those games in Atlanta, and I don't like those games in New Orleans. They just don't have the same feel of them as a regular Michigan, Ohio State, or Auburn and Alabama type of rival at the home stadiums. It seems like it's louder because you have the home team with the dominant crowd there. That's just me. I like the energy like that, okay? All right, so now let's get to my 12-team ranking, all right? Let's see. All right, now I've mentioned before that, I didn't even go over the Big 12. Okay, so anyways, that's one of the champions that I did not cover here. All right. So I like Utah to beat Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. So Utah will be the Big 12 champion. All right. The ACC, I like Miami to beat Florida State in the ACC championship. Miami, don't let me down, Miami. I mentioned that before. I like Georgia over Texas. They play twice. Georgia wins twice. Over Texas, okay, in the SEC championship. And, of course, the Big Ten, Ohio State loses at Oregon, but they come back in the championship game at a neutral site game, and they beat Oregon. So Ohio State will get the higher seed because they won the conference championship, okay, if that makes sense. So you've got the conference champions there, all right? Now, this is all educated guess. This is the first year. I don't think anybody's going to get this right because, like I said the other day with the Mad New Yorker, who knows who knows about a TCU 2 years ago getting to the national championship game? Who really would have thought? I thought Washington had a good team. I didn't think they'd make it. So we don't know. It's all educated guesses, folks. It's all an educated guess. All right. Now, obviously, the 1 seed will be, it's going to get a bye week, Georgia. Okay. The 2 seed, Ohio State, the Big Ten winner, they're going to get the bye week. And, of course, the 3 in Miami. And then, of course, Utah will be the other one because they won their bye weeks. Okay. And then, of course, my 5th seed will be Oregon. Oregon's going to get 1 loss. They'll lose in the conference championship game. My 5th seed will be Oregon. My number 6 seed, they're the ranked 6th team in the country, Ole Miss. They're going to lose somewhere. I just don't know where. They're going to make it through. And somehow they're going to end up not getting to the conference championship. They could this year. It's 20 out of 22 starters back, and they've had a big transfer portal. They could get past Texas. Texas has some running back injuries. But right now, I have Ole Miss as the 6th seed, Notre Dame as the 7th seed. All right. Penn State as the 8th seed. Okay. Penn State may be the better team, but they might not have the better record than Notre Dame. All right. 9 seed is Texas. The 10 seed is Tennessee. I've talked about Tennessee. I really thought hard about this, folks. I think that the committee will find a way to get Florida State in. I think they're going to find a way to get Florida State back in the playoff. Florida State's number 11, and number 12 is Missouri. Okay? Number 12 will be Missouri here. Okay, so now, first round. These are at the location of the home of the higher seeded team. Okay, I think Oregon's going to play Missouri in Eugene. Oregon will beat Missouri. All right, So that's a win there for Oregon. All right. This will be a good one. The 6th Ole Miss versus the 11th Florida State. I like, obviously, Ole Miss to beat Florida State and move on. Notre Dame, Pickles. Notre Dame will play Tennessee. They've had a few matches there. And Tennessee's came back on them and beat them before, and Notre Dame's beat Tennessee before. So Notre Dame will be upset by the 10 seed Tennessee Vols. All right. And Penn State, sorry, Texas, Penn State's defense rises up, and Penn State will beat Texas in the first round. Penn State will move on to the next round. All right. Second round. Pickle says Lane Kiffin couldn't mess up a free. That is true. Kiffin could mess this thing up. They did give up 50 points to Georgia last year. Anything can happen with Kiffin. All right, so now your big dogs are unleashed. They're off their bye weeks, okay? So Georgia will play Tennessee again, and Georgia's going to beat Tennessee again. All right, Georgia, pretty handily win there. All right, and Ohio State, they play Penn State again. Wow, in the playoff, that'll be great. But I like Ohio State to beat Penn State. All right. Here's an upset alert here. Miami will play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss upsets Miami. And the 6th seed upsets the 3. All right. And then Utah will lose to Oregon. Utah's not that good on the road. Not unless they're playing USC. So Oregon moves on. Okay. Next round. All right. Georgia will play another SEC team. It'll be a tough game, but they'll win. All right. Georgia will beat Ole Miss. And they will advance. And Ohio State will beat Oregon. They will play Oregon 3 times. They'll lose at Eugene come October. Ohio State will beat them in the conference championship game. And then Ohio State will also beat them in the playoff. All right. And then, of course, for the national championship game, Ohio State, with Chip Kelly, with this new quarterback, with all these transfers, they're going to come back, and Ryan Day is going to redeem himself, and he's going to beat Georgia. Remember, they got very close with Stroud, very, very close with Stroud to beating that Georgia team. This time, they come back and they beat Georgia and win the national championship. Now, anything can happen. I've been back and forth. At first, I thought maybe Georgia wins. Then I thought, well, maybe Ohio State's a little bit more hungry. You know, it could go either way. I'm in the SEC. I mean, of course, if it goes the other way, then you've got Kirby Smart winning his 3rd national championship. That will put him up there with your 3 championships and above. I mean, you're up there with Tom Osborne from Nebraska, 3 national championships. You're up there with Urban Meyer, 3 national championships there. So I don't think I think that I just get a sense that Ohio State's going to be pretty hard. Listen, I'm not a fan of Ohio State. I just call balls and strikes. Okay. We talked about this with the Mad New Yorker. All right. And you look at the players that they've put in the league over the years. Okay, C.J. Stroud, Houston Texans, playing great. Marvin Harrison, maybe, even though I don't like some of his diva stuff here, Marvin Harrison may very well be a big-time player just like his dad at the wide receiver position. Look at the two Bosa brothers. They both went to Ohio State. Both got second contracts, okay, with the LA Chargers, of course, with the Niners there, Nick and Joey Bosa here. You look at, who was it, Paris Jackson, the left tackle there, drafted really high last year by Arizona. Okay. They're really putting out some good players here. Garrett Wilson, the receiver there with the Jets, Chris Olave, speed burner with the New Orleans Saints here. And plus they've got a transfer. I mentioned this the other day. They've got a transfer here from Ole Miss with Henderson. They're going to be a dual threat. And I mentioned this quarterback they've got. This quarterback transfer from Kansas State, he's a dual threat guy. He's an accurate guy from Kansas. He is a time and a half better quarterback than the quarterback they had last year. Okay, now if you want to get really down into the weeds, I could make a case the other way because listen, Georgia's starting quarterback is supposed to be the number one quarterback taken off the board. Very well could be the number one pick, but I'm looking at a team that has been laughed at, mocked. They've had to make some serious adjustments. Ohio State has. They've got a new offensive coordinator. They're going to go to the running game because they're being accused of being soft. Okay. And you got to also look at the fact that the road is going to be a little bit more harder for these SEC teams. That hasn't stopped them in the past. But you've got their conference championship game, plus you've got the road there. Texas ain't even started yet. So I mentioned the injuries to the Texas running backs. And I know they got depth. They're Texas. They can do it. They can do anything. They have an unlimited amount of money that they can go out and get another player on the fly. It's within the NCAA rules. There's some kind of whatever. But you also look at teams like LSU that could still get in there, Auburn that could still get in there and in place of Texas. All right. Auburn. I did not put Auburn in there this year because they've had 7 losses. They did almost beat Alabama, but they've got 9 of those defensive players back. So I don't know if they're going to be great this year or not. Maybe they're a year off. Okay. They could get in over Missouri. Florida, I don't think they did the schedules, and Texas A&M could get in. So USC could technically get. They fired the whole defensive staff, not just pick it and choose. They fired the whole staff, and we know how good Lincoln Riley is with quarterbacks. So you could put one of those teams in there, and something could happen. All right. Also, I didn't know how much time I'd have left because all this is a lot of information. SEC tiebreakers. This was an interesting story here because it's such a competitive conference. This put out, the SEC Network put this out today. Tiebreakers in the great SEC conference. Head-to-head competition among the tied teams, obviously. Record versus common conference opponents among the tied teams. That's why I put so many SEC teams in. Okay. Record against highest, best place common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among the tied teams. That's a mouthful. Cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among the tied teams. It's good to have a strong at a conference schedule. capped relatively total scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. That's an interesting one, right? And then, of course, then it gets in the NFL. This is a coin flip, but in the SEC, it's a random draw of the tied teams. So you're putting a couple of names into a basket here. You got LSU in here, and you got A&M. All right, they're tied. So let's just get our hands in here. We're going to roll it around, and the winning team's going to be Texas A&M. And Brett McMurphy says SEC championship tiebreakers. He says disappointing final tiebreaker is a drawing, names out of a hat. I'm sure this will be broadcast live on the SEC network and not a coin flip like the. That was one of the tiebreakers in the NFL draft one year, if you don't recall, folks. All these cameras, all that sophistication. Then it comes down to a coin flip. All right, heads or tails. Also, odds. I mean, Georgia's the favorite to win it, according to FanDuel, followed by Ohio State. Oregon is third. Texas is fourth. Alabama's fifth. There's still respect for Alabama. Tied with fifth is Ole Miss at plus 1,400. Notre Dame, 1,800. LSU, 2,000. Penn State, 2,000. 3,000 for Florida State. 3,500. 100. If you put $100 on Tennessee to win the national championship, you get 3,500 back. Texas A&M, 4,000. Missouri, 4,000. Miami, plus 6,000. Same with Clemson. Utah, 6,000. I mean, it's 10,000 for USC. So there's no love for USC, even from Vegas as well. You know, and I thought I put down the. I'll give you my Heisman Trophy winner tomorrow, but here's the odds on Heisman Trophy, just in case you're wondering. Dylan Gabriel, I told you this guy Gabriel's going to be good for the Ducks here. He's the favorite, plus 700 to win the Heisman, plus 750. Carson Beck, that's the quarterback for Georgia. They could be the number one pick overall in next year's draft. Quinn Ewers from Texas, plus 1,000. Will Howard, I'm leaning on picking the Ohio State quarterback to win a Heisman Trophy, but also Nico from Tennessee. Nico from Tennessee, the quarterback, second-year player, plus 1,400. He's tied with the Ohio State guy at plus 1,400. Alabama's Jalen Monroe, 1,400. They're all three tied. Jason Dart from Ole Miss, he's also tied at 1,400. That's the Ole Miss. It's also got 19 or the whole offense is back. So for Ole Miss, Riley Leonard's in there for Notre Dame at plus 2,200. So Nussmeier from LSU is in here, and Corin Wigman from A&M, and a Cameron Ward from Florida, from Miami. So you read that and you look at my predictions. I'm not too far off. You know, I'm not too far off. So, yeah, Ohio State over Georgia. Ohio State over Georgia in the national championship. I'll probably regret that. But, you know, I'm not a fanboy. I'm an umpire. I just call balls and strikes. You know, SEC teams will beat up on each other all year, is what Pickle said. And that's true. You know, and if you want to do it, look at it that way. With, say, Georgia's got a boatload of injuries, but they still win the SEC championship game and they secure one of those bye weeks. Okay, they'll get 2 weeks off. They'll get 2 weeks off before they play another game, and they can heal up. So that could, you know. But what if they come in and play a red hot team and gets them down early? So it's the bye weeks can be a double-edged sword, is what I'm saying. I've seen the Titans look off kilter when they played the Cincinnati Bengals off their bye week. Boy, did that tick me off. But that they did. I mean, and Burrow ended up beating 3 interceptions by Ryan Tannehill in that game. And Joe Burrow ends up making the right throws, and Cincinnati goes on and wins the game here. So I can't wait for this thing. I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it. I know this is not going to be perfect, this 12-team playoff I pick. I don't think anybody's going to have the perfect bracket because it's hard. It's really difficult. I struggled with Utah. Maybe Oklahoma State gets in. Some people think Kansas State's going to get in from the Big 12. That's somewhat wide open. Kansas has got a good coach as well. That would be different, you know. So it's a lot to digest in the college game. I think it's going to be fun. The ratings or the season tickets overall in all of college football, there was a report out the other day, up 42% because of some of these big games. You got Texas, Georgia's going to play. You know, you've got Oregon and Ohio State's going to play next year. That's going to be a big, big game. And it will be in prime time, by the way, around 7 o'clock Central Time, around 5:30, something like that, on the Pacific Coast time. That's going to be a great game. Cannot wait to see that. So I'm excited about this thing. You know, Florida State will play this weekend. I think they're playing like Georgia Tech in Dublin, another Dublin game in Ireland. But the real football starts, the full-fledged of the college game starts next Saturday when the big games come on. Your Miamis and versus Florida, Clemson, Georgia. So those will be some really good games here. Now, I mentioned this one's going to be undersold, but I'm not underselling. Notre Dame at Texas A&M, that will be a good one. That will be a really good game. So that's my 12-team playoff here. If you like the show, share the show. Be talking about this stuff tomorrow with the Mad New Yorker and see what he thinks for his championship game. And I'm going to study these Heisman guys. I'll give you a Heisman winner tomorrow as well. So, again, thanks, everybody. I will see you otherwise tomorrow, same time, same place, here on The Real Sports Scope.